This is a common setup for nootropic users, as most nootropics come bulk in powders. So here's some acetylcholine, a package of aniracetam, and you'll see how these come in a white bag, completely unmarked of course, but they come as bulk powder, and so this is enough for many, many doses of aniracetam, and you'll have to weigh this out yourself. So what I'm going to do this morning is show you a little bit of the tools it takes to weigh these out, and we'll actually weigh out some phenibut and some aniracetam. So often you're going to really, if you're going to weigh these out, you need a scale, a milligram or microgram scale. So this is a little scale you can see in comparison to my hand. It's very small. Open up the top, and it can't weigh heavy weights. So one of the things you want to ensure is if you're going to weigh out bulk powders on a scale like this, it's really helpful to have some really small containers, see how it fits in the palm of my hand, that are very light to weigh into. A heavy container, like this glass container, will max out the weight of the scale, and it will not allow you to weigh anything on the scale with something so heavy on it. So you really do have to have some sort of container or some way to weigh on the scale in a light form. So I'm going to add this. We turn the scale on, and you'll see it loading up here. It's going to tear itself out to 0. So we should be able to see that scale reading 0. I'm going to add the container. It's going to record a weight, and I'm just going to hit this tear button. That's going to zero out the scale. So now it's reading 0, and you see the scale reading is in grams. Now we can switch that if we wanted to 2 ounces. Count grams. So we're going to use grams because almost always the dose for nootropics is in milligrams or grams. And you'll see I've done a little bit of research for the doses that I'm looking for, and I've written on these bags so I don't forget. 250 milligram dose of acetylcholine, that is 0.25 grams. If I'm going to use it with aniracetam, here's a dosage that we can use. And you'll notice I did the same thing on the phenibut. Dissolve in an oil, ideally, 500 to 1500 milligrams. Now it's very important to understand the difference between milligrams and grams. You see the scale is recording in grams, but I need a milligram dose. So 500 milligrams is 0.5 grams. 1500 milligrams is 1.5 grams. So that's really important to understand the weights that you're putting onto your scale so that you don't overdose on any of these compounds. Now you can see a lot of these, as we mentioned, come in bags. These containers are often what I'll use to store things in if I want them out of the bags. It makes them a lot easier to scoop out of these containers. And this is GABA, which is a neurotransmitter, and it tells me that 750 milligrams is about a 1/4 teaspoon. The best way is always to use a scale to weigh these. Now, you will also often, when you order bulk nootropics, you'll get these little scoops. This scoop is really tiny. I'll put my hand in here. You see my finger, and you see how tiny that little scoop is. That is the approximate amount of a nootropic compound that you would take in a given day. So tiny, tiny, tiny amount. This scoop is supposed to give you the right amount. I have found scooping to be wildly inaccurate, and the only way to understand that you're taking the right dose is to weigh everything on a scale. You can see that the scale is small enough I can travel with it in a backpack or wherever if I'm traveling and I need to bring nootropics with me. Okay, so let's get down to weighing phenibut. Now phenibut, if I'm going to take phenibut, I'm going to use 500 to 1500 milligrams. So in this case I'm going to use 850 milligrams. So let's weigh that out. So I'll tear the scale again. The scale is turned off on its own. It's zeroed out. we'll open up our funnel belt. Grab an implement here to scoop it. And I'm going to want 850 milligrams, which is 0.85 grams. So I wanted to say 0.85. There we go. So that's pretty good. So it's you know, a couple milligrams over. If I really care about having a, that little bit over, I'll pull some out. You'll see the weight start to go down. I'm not that concerned about being over by even 10 or 20 milligrams since the dosage is pretty high. So this is 87 grams, 0.87 grams, which is 870 milligrams. So 870 milligrams is right within our range of 500 to 1500. I will put this in a container that I'm going to travel with. So, I have specific uses for when I'll utilize specific nootropics. This is a great one for me, for social anxiety, and I only use it a couple times a year when I'm giving a really big presentation. So I will put that in here, I'll cap it, and that's where that will stay. So that is how you weigh out your nootropics. Now, aniracetam uses a much smaller quantity in some cases, but you would do the same thing. You'd weigh it onto the scale, and then when you're going to use it, I would take this and I would add some MCT oil, or brain octane oil. So I'm going to come over here, back. So this is a fat, it's caprylic acid brain octane oil from Bulletproof. What I would do is I would add about a teaspoon to a tablespoon of brain octane oil right in here. I would mix it around. It would dissolve this in the fat. Then I would drink it as is. These compounds can be very bitter. I would drink it, and then I would swish this around with usually a caffeinated source, so coffee. So I'd take some coffee or some green tea, and I would continuously pour the coffee and green tea into here and continue to drink it until it's all the powder is gone and it's into my system. Okay. Now, there are other ways. So some people find these compounds are very bitter and they have trouble taking them. Most of us, from taking these bulk compounds for so many years, we just stick the raw compound right under our tongue. So we would just literally scoop it right into our mouth, put it under our tongue, and hold it there until we swallow it. So that's the preferred way. However, again, very bitter, not always pleasant. So what you can do, most of us have purchased, these are really inexpensive Now brand gel caps. So this is just a bag full of the gel caps that you'll note from supplementation. You'll see these all the time, of course. And all you do, they do make special holders for these, but you just pull it apart and you open it up. And what I'm going to do is try to position it in here in a way that I can fill it, which is not really very easy. So I think I'll actually switch to this if this is not too heavy for the scale. Now I will, let's just say we're going to use GABA. I'll turn the scale on. Let it come to 0. Okay, so it did 0 out. Now I want to add, let's say, 750 milligrams into this gel cap. It may or may not hold that total amount. I may need to fill 2 of them and take 2 at once. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to take the GABA, scoop it out, take this off. The scale is tared, so I'm just going to fill this up. This helps if you're going to travel with these things, if you want to take nootropics with you. Helps to kind of encapsulate them. Okay, I have no idea how much that weighs. We're going to stick it in here. We'll get a weight. So that's 290 milligrams. I want 750. So I'd really like to fit it into 1. It's not going to fit into 1, but hopefully I can fit it into just 2. So I'm going to tamp this down. You can buy fancy fillers to fill these, just like pharmaceutical and supplement companies have. Depends on your budget. So hopefully I can get 370 milligrams into here, roughly 375, and then that would be half a dose, so I'd only have to fill 2 of these. Okay, so I did get quite a bit. That's 950 milligrams. So 950 milligrams, I was hoping for 750. I'd actually take some of this back out. Just tap a little bit of it out. And now we're down to 0.37, 370 milligrams. So that's exactly half. So it was odd. Sometimes you get a little bit of finger pressing on the scale, but this is about exactly half of a dose. So that's where I would leave it. I've now created one capsule that's half of what I want to take. I'll take that capsule, I'll cap it, and there you go. Now put that in a plastic bag, put it in another container like one of these, and you've got your capsules you can take with you anywhere, or you can just swallow this now. You would swallow 2 of these if you wanted 750 milligrams, and of course no bitter taste because you're just swallowing a capsule at this point. So that is how we weigh nootropic powders. And again, most of the nootropics you're going to purchase are going to be bulk powders. So again, this is one of those, sometimes they'll tell you on the package how much you should take. So this is Noopept and it says 10 milligrams. So this is the package that actually came with this tiny, tiny scoop that's tinier than the tip of my finger. But again, I would weigh that out right on the scale, so I get 0.01 milligrams, or 0.01 grams would be 10 milligrams. So that is how you would do that. If you have any questions, of course, let us know.